Stand by. Is this thing on?
Yes, Dan.
Oh, hello.
You're listening to Old News with Dan and Carrie.
This just in.
Breaking news to report.
We are live.
Old newscasters
Can we just say former?
Sure. Former newscasters reunite behind the mic after more than 20 years.
Old news is good news.
Stay tuned. Our guest today is photojournalist Mike Ladisa. Mike is the founder and co-owner of Kylight Cinema in Ocoee, Florida. You've likely seen some of Mike's recent work in the ABC News coverage of the devastating damage from Hurricane Helene in Asheville, North Carolina, and Hurricane Milton in Florida. Dan and I worked with Mike in Madison, Wisconsin at WKOW-TV in the late 1990s. And Mike Ladisa, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Good
Great to see you, Mike.
It's been decades.
It has. It's been a while.
Now, are you rested up after all of that storm coverage?
I am. It took a while. I mean,
I bet.
it was like getting up at 3 a.m. and getting to bed at 11 p.m. for 18 days straight. So it was just basically naps. But
Yeah.
Wow.
it took a week, and I feel like back to neutral now.
So you are still in the news business, but you also do many other things, and you do all of this under the umbrella of your company. Can you tell us about your company and where you're located? We're hearing birds that I'm guessing are not coming from Dan's office.
Birds, you're hearing the birds?
I'm hearing birds. That sounds
Okay.
amazing.
So my birthday was a couple days ago, and my kids
Happy
got
birthday.
me 2 parakeets
Oh,
for my birthday.
Nice.
aw.
But they can't be outside yet because they're babies. So that's why you're hearing birds.
Oh, well, it
What'd you
sounds
name
very
them?
tropical.
It's to be determined yet.
Ah.
So I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Stay tuned, as they say
Yeah,
in the news
yeah.
business. All right. So your business was born out of your love for storytelling. So Kylight Cinema is your baby.
Yes. Um, it started about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'd done local news up until right before 9/11. So what was that, 2001?
Right. Yep.
And then I got out of local news altogether, did something completely different. Like my wife and I own bakeries, like drastic change.
Oh, really?
We owned those for 15 years and I did not like it at all. So
Oh.
I don't know why we
You're a
did it.
survivor lasting 15 years in a business you didn't like.
I
Yeah,
hated
really.
it. I really did. I hated it. And my wife was like, just go and start shooting again. So I picked up a camera on eBay super cheap and started with a couple small clients, and then word of mouth got me more clients, and that snowballed. So now I stay pretty busy. And we're in a suburb of Orlando, which is called Ocoee, and that's it.
Hey,
Well,
during
and
that
you-
time that you were doing the, sorry, Carrie.
Oh, that's right. Go ahead.
During the time you were doing the bakery, were you still from time to time picking up a camera and doing some freelance stuff, or were you still shooting
No.
stuff for the bakery? None of that. You had just kind of went cold turkey on shooting
Kinda,
video.
yeah. It was Betacam when I got out of the business. Like
Yeah.
just Betacam. That was the only media there was. So everybody shot on the same camera with the same tape. It was the same. And then when I got back into the business, there's 50 different kinds of media, hundreds of codecs, different ways to edit. It was just a drastic difference, which I almost didn't want to do it just because it was a lot to learn fast.
Yeah,
But I
big
really
learning curve.
I like making things look nice. So I learned it just because I wanted to make things look nice and tell stories.
I'd like to go back to the bakery for a minute. How did you even get into the bakery business, not having a background in baking or culinary?
It was a franchise. It was low investment. And I thought it would be fun, maybe. So that was it. It was just like a different thing than news. Because local news is great. It teaches you how to be very efficient and self-reliant and to get the job done and you don't miss slot. That's what you learn in local news. But
Right.
it's a lot of bad news and it just kind of
Hmm.
wears you down. So I
Right.
didn't want to do local news anymore.
Hmm.
This is just depressing.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
hear
because
you.
you did local news. I think you were at KOW where Carrie and I were like in the mid 90s with us for about a year. I remember you were out doing shooting and things like that, and then you went to another station in Madison. I think it was WMTV. Why did you
Oops. Oh,
decide
you
to, first of all,
froze.
go into the news business to start your career? Is that what you went to school for?
No, I
No.
went to UW-Madison and I got a degree in communications with emphasis in TV and film.
Hmm.
I wanted to do movies. I mean,
Yeah.
that was the goal. I wanted to shoot movies or direct movies, one of the two. But I also didn't have the courage to move to LA and
Mm.
pursue it. So local news seemed like a good stepping stone, I guess.
An entry point.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so that's why local news, or that's why news in general. And
Hmm.
it was just, I mean, it was also an opportunity that just presented itself. Um, at the time, I needed to find a job, so
Mhm.
I started at teleprompter, I think, in the studio,
Mm.
and kind of graduated to editor and then to shooting at Channel 27 there.
Hmm. Well, I was just going to ask what your duties were at 27, and there you go. So you decided enough with the Wisconsin weather, and you went to Florida in 97, you said. So
Yep.
what made you want to or go to Florida besides the weather?
Really, that was totally it. That
Just
was
the
totally it.
weather.
So I remember being sent out in the middle of winter, and it's like
Mm.
you guys both live, I'm still up there, I guess, right? So,
I'm in Pittsburgh.
I'm in Wisconsin. Yeah.
okay. But it's very, very cold. And the story of the day
Hmm.
was go shoot the cold weather. And I couldn't feel the record button with my gloves on, so I took them off, and like my fingers froze instantly, and I was like, that's it. And that night, I started looking up stations that had warm climates and sending them like paper resumes and resume tapes as soon as I could get them out. It was solely a weather decision. That was totally it.
Honestly, that is the one thing. I mean, you miss things about the news business when you've been in it and you did it, but the one thing I would never want to do again is stand chattering my teeth doing a live shot in 0-degree weather or whatever, because you get cold and you just don't stop getting cold. And until you get back inside, yeah, that is the worst part. I don't blame you at all for going down to Florida. Of course, we don't have hurricanes here in Wisconsin.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. They're not that bad. I mean, I say that they are bad, but where I
Hmm.
Yeah.
live, we're central, smack in the middle of the state, so we don't usually get the high winds that the coast gets.
Hmm.
Obviously, I don't want to minimize the impact of a hurricane, but where I live, we just don't get that same damage.
Hmm. So what station did you go to when you moved to Florida? Did you work in several stations or one local news station?
I worked in three.
Oh.
I went to the ABC affiliate in Orlando, and then NBC affiliate after that, and then the CBS affiliate after that.
Hmm.
And then I thought that was enough news.
Hmm. And you really have a wide variety of clients. You're doing commercials. I even saw you're doing or you were part of an investigation discovery show called Married to Evil. That's your little kind of got your
Yes,
foot in the door to Hollywood, right? You could still get in that film. So tell us about that show.
it's weird. It's like it's a documentary style show where they use the family members to kind of tell the story about what
Mm.
happened to their spouse who was killed by their
Hmm.
other spouse. And
Mm.
so we'll
Hmm.
interview aunts and uncles and children and so on.
Hmm.
And
And,
it's weird.
It's weird.
I mean,
and what's your role in that production, Mike? What's your role in that production? Are you the director of photography
Yeah,
Director of photography,
Mm.
or do you have another title?
director of photography, and then production
Course.
coordinator
Mm.
in the United States. I would say that maybe. I mean, because I'm coordinating the rest of the crew and the gear, and yeah, so that's it. I mean, primarily director of photography though.
Hmm.
The
Um,
company is overseas, which is why I say United States.
oh, okay. So
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
coordinating everything here. Gotcha. How much time does that
And
take? How many
yeah.
like days, months, hours did you spend on that?
On the actual production,
On
or
the, yeah, you're on your part of it.
usually the shoots are like 3 or 4 days, and
Mm.
then we usually have a prep day and we have a bunch of Zoom calls and emails. So maybe a week total time, kind of getting all the pieces together and everything. The
Mm.
actual scheduling of all the people, that's
Hmm.
done by the production company who hires me.
Gotcha.
And then I just kind of facilitate the equipment that we need and the crew that we need here
Hmm.
in Florida or wherever this shoot may be.
Mhm.
How did you work your way into doing work with production companies from overseas or here that were producing programming like the show for Discover ID?
Word of mouth was the big thing. So I would do some sort of a production stateside maybe, and then that company in the UK company was, for example, looking for somebody stateside. They contact a company I just had worked with kind of randomly. They say, try this guy. He'll get the job done. Um, so I think a lot of that is just word of mouth. And then, and a little bit of marketing, but I really don't do much marketing. It's
Mm.
more word of mouth, I think.
Hmm. Is that how you got hooked up with ABC News as well? Because you were doing a lot of live shots. You had, as you mentioned, you'd go to bed at, 11 p.m., get up at 3 a.m., do all the work you did with ABC for the hurricane coverage. Was it similar that they just knew you were capable? They, word of mouth, or how did you get in with ABC?
Same word of mouth. It was
Mm-hmm.
that one I remember specifically. It was a local person who they called to go do some shoot. I don't remember what the shoot was, like an
Mm-hmm.
interview maybe. Called
Mm-hmm.
him to do an interview. He couldn't do it. He gave my name, and then I did the shoot. And I think they just started calling me after that. Not maybe
Mm-hmm.
for every single thing,
Mm-hmm.
but enough things. Like I think they kind of tested me out to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that I could do network news, for example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I would get bigger and bigger and bigger things. So I think it was a referral primarily, and then just me kind of proving that I could get the job done efficiently and properly with
Mm-hmm.
with the right equipment. So they call me a lot now.
Wow, that's pretty
Yeah, you got to
incredible.
deliver the goods, and once you deliver the goods, they're going to keep
Mm-hmm.
calling you, right? Mike, so explain to people how that works. And were you doing coverage with Ginger Z this last during the hurricane? Was that you with Ginger Z?
Yes. Yeah, that was. So we have a team of a lot more than local news. So there's a different support system. It's me,
Yeah.
a correspondent, an audio tech, an engineer
Hmm.
in this situation, an engineer and a producer or two producers typically. So and that's just like on the ground where we are.
Hmm.
And then if we shoot a package or whatever we may do, we don't edit it. We just feed it all back. Somebody else edits it.
Mm.
So it's different than local news, but it's the same. Product's the same, but there's a lot more of a support system, I would say.
Was it really collaborative or at the national level, would the producers just say, "Hey, Mike, this is what we need," or would you like have a morning meeting where you would figure everything out for the day, or how did those decisions get made?
Um, in the hurricane or just
Hmm.
in general?
Yeah, the hurricane.
we would come up with a game plan. So we knew we didn't want to die. So we would pick a spot where we wouldn't die. And
That's a
then,
great start.
yes, we'd probably the night before, typically, or half a day before the hurricane was going to hit, we would walk through our options. Like this balcony here will show us this, and it's covered enough that, if there's some debris, we should be okay. Safety is always first. Like that's the priority. So the first thing we base it on is this is going to be safe for us. And then after that, is it visual, and can we show people what we need to show them? So we would plan it through, look at a few options, decide as a group which one was the safest and the most visual, where the correspondent could also have something to reference or show what's going on. And I think usually then the producers would send that info and maybe a couple of snapshots back to New York. New York would be like, yeah, that's good. And that's kind of how it went. That's not always how it goes. I mean, sometimes we're just like, we have to do this spot because we're stuck here and that's it. But most of the time we try to plan it.
And during this last round of coverage, did you feel safe for most of that time? Were you ever in any, perilous positions? I mean, because that was a heck of a storm.
Milton was, I felt safe. Yeah, we were at a hotel in Fort Myers where I wasn't there before, but Ginger and the producer had stayed there before. So they knew how the hotel operated. They knew where the storm surge came up to. And Ginger is a meteorologist, so she knows, like, she's just running the numbers in her head. I could see her doing it. Like, it's low tide now, and the storm surge is going to be this many feet, so the storm surge come up to here. And she would just tell us, like, this is where the water's going to come up to, so we just have to be back here.
I mean, we all, of course, saw the coverage at home, watching the absolute devastation. I still can't believe Asheville and what it went through. What is it like being there in person and seeing all of that devastation with your own eyes?
It's a little depressing. I mean, it's like you feel bad for those people, but you still have to get your job done, and you have to show everyone else what is happening there, so they can get the help they need. And it's awkward because the people maybe don't want to be on TV, or you're seeing people at their worst moment. So it's just challenging. You want to show the world what is happening and perhaps get those people some help, but those people are at their worst.
Right.
Well, did you get to stay around long enough, Mike? I know just from having covered tornadoes and things like that up here where there was devastation, people's homes would be destroyed, there might be injuries. It always surprised me after the fact. Yes, you see the worst of it, but you also see the best of people sometimes post-traumatic event like that. Did you get to stay around to see any of that?
Yes.
People helping each other, that type of thing?
Yep. I mean, people doing whatever they could. Like, one lady had a bunch of mules, and she was just packing up these mules with supplies and taking the mules up to where cars couldn't go because the roads were washed out. So, and the people were stuck there. They couldn't get out, and they needed their whatever food and gas for generators and so on. So, it is something that also brings out the best in people in America.
Explain to us the structure of your business. Are you, you're a guy running the business and then you contract with other people, or how does it work?
I do the bulk of the paperwork and production coordinating and the shooting. And then I have another employee who is kind of can do almost everything else. He can do audio and lighting and AC and all the other things. So he's like my number one person. If I go do any shoot, he's always with me. And then my wife helps out with rentals and juggling things when I can't get it all done. So a lot of times I'm out of town and we have people picking up gear or dropping off gear, and my wife will handle that. It's small. It's the three of us.
Yeah. But that's
Yeah.
that's a common
Yeah.
story we hear from people who are in the production business. And
Hmm.
typically you're working with other production companies along the way, like you are for Discover,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Also, we hire a lot of independent contractors. So
Right.
I can only be in one place at one time, and we may need to do 4 shoots in one day. So I have a network of people that are not only friends, but they're good at what they do. So I'll call my buddy and say, hey, can you help me out with this? And he'll cover it, and vice versa. When he's got a couple shoots going on, he'll give me a call and I'll go cover him. So
Hmm.
it's a good network of people I just have met in Orlando that we all kind of work together to get our jobs done.
That's been a theme for several of our previous guests who have businesses kind of similarly set up to yours. And it seems to be working well and kind of a win-win. So you don't always have a room full of photographers or videographers sitting there waiting to go out and work. It's just you have that network and can employ people for the day or for the job. It seems like, a really good system. Did you know you were going to set up like that, or did that evolve over time?
It evolved.
Hmm.
I knew I was going to need assistance. I mean, there's no, in the production world, it's very rare that one person does everything.
Hmm.
So I knew I would need somebody to do audio or to do lighting, or if there's two cameras, a second camera person. And I was I was that second camera person or that audio person for a while, and that's how I met all of these people. I just really enjoy the mix. I enjoy being out on a commercial set one day with like a commercial is huge. There's usually a lot of people there. So
Hmm.
with that group of people, and then the next day, a really tight package covering a hurricane where like your adrenaline is up because it's just a completely different type of shoot.
Hmm.
I like the variety. I can't, it's like trying to pick a favorite child, Dan. I can't do it.
Right. No, I get it. I get it. And I think that's what most people would say who work in the industry you're working in the production industry, because you can be doing so many different things. One day you might be in the office scheduling and planning and things like that, but then the next day you're out like you were, shooting a hurricane. Or it looks like you've shot probably plenty of things over at the Cape as well, like SpaceX launches and things like that. So any day, any day can kind of go in a different way, it sounds like. And I think that would be exciting, especially the people who have worked in the news business. And that was one of the best things I think about working in news, is every day was different.
On your website, I was looking at your business website, and you were talking about your love for storytelling, which has been a theme on the podcast that almost everyone we've had on says they love telling stories. What are some of the most memorable stories that just have stuck with you year after year that you are so proud that you did that story?
I did this one story. It was a commercial for the college here, Valencia Community College. And this was like, this is probably eight years ago. And this dad had his young son drown in a bathtub,
Mm.
or almost drown. So he went to visit his son in the hospital. There was a long process of his son recovering, but he did make a full recovery. And he saw all the respiratory therapists like working with his breathing, and he just was like, I want to do that. So he took all the respiratory care classes at this Valencia college, and that was his story. I mean, he was just a very genuine guy, and I loved that story. That's my favorite, I think. Lots of good stories, but that one was my favorite. I think I try to treat it as a public service if I'm doing news. But the reality is, news is still a business, so they have to pay their bills, and they pay their bills by doing whatever they feel is the appropriate business decision. And that's true in local news as well. I always treated it as a public service, and I still try to do that. But that's not the case. It really is a business.
Yeah.
Mike, what advice do you have for people who might want to get into the photojournalism business? Do you suggest getting a degree or job shadowing, or what are your thoughts?
Okay. I would say job shadowing is great because you're going to learn a lot fast. And you may not be getting paid for it, but you can't put a price on what you're going to learn in the field. Getting a degree is also great because they're going to teach you the latest and greatest technology, most likely, and that's something you might not see in the field. You may or you may not, depending on who you're shadowing. I would just say working hard, regardless of what you're doing, that's the key. Like, go all in, work hard.
What would you say? How long did it take you to kind of go, all right, I've got this. This business it's working for you? Because that's a scary jump. You jumped from one thing completely different. And yeah, you had experience shooting, and you'd worked in that area, but that's a scary thing. I give you a lot of credit. How long did it take you to kind of get to a comfortable level with Keylight?
A couple of years, I would say. So my wife had a full-time job where she worked, I think she was 5 days a week, and she was paying the bills. Like, I was just trying to work, but it's hit and miss. So, I mean, I could not work for a month, and then I could have 2 days, and then I could not work for a month again.
Mm.
So she was handling the finances. I mean, like, I didn't have to stress much because I knew she was at least paying our bills. And then it got to the point where, like, I needed help because I couldn't manage everything all the time, and she was able to leave her job because we were making enough money at what I was doing, and I needed the extra help. So a couple of years to get to that point, I would say.
Was there a learning
That's
curve in
great.
working together?
No, I don't think so. I mean, we worked together in the bakeries as well.
Yeah.
So there's disagreements, and there's days where, I mean, months where there's no issues, but we're going to disagree regardless, and we just work through it. So
And how
And
many
do you,
kids do you have?
two, boy and a
And
girl,
how old are they?
21 and 19.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
so are you
very
empty
nice.
nesters yet or no?
No, my daughter goes to
No.
Ole Miss,
Mm.
and she's the younger one. She's 19, and then my
Mm-hmm.
son goes to Mississippi State, but he's doing it online, so he's still living at home.
Oh, gotcha. Does he ever join you in the business?
He did. He helped. I would say quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
He would help with rentals. He would come out on shoots with me.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a full-time job and he's a student now, so he just doesn't
Mm.
have the time.
Right. Anybody want to join the family business?
No, I don't think so. I mean, my
No.
daughter, maybe she might have considered it at one point, but
Mm-hmm.
she's changed her mind, so
Mm-hmm.
which is fine. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
not for everybody.
Right.
Well, typically I ask people their first and their worst and a job they're still thirsting for or something they're still thirsting to do. We know your first job was running teleprompter at WKOW. I mean,
Yep.
your first job in TV, at least.
Hmm.
Um, do you have a worst job?
A worst job. Um, no, I guess not. I mean,
You don't.
I would say the bakeries, but it did teach me a lot about business.
You
Right.
learn something from everything, right? And
Right.
is there something you're still thirsting to do, whether it's work related or just life related?
Um, Nothing really work related. I'd like to get out and travel a bit personally, but nothing work related, I would say.
Yeah, that's a common answer.
I like to ask about bloopers. I know you've always been behind the camera, but have you been involved with bloopers that maybe you had to stifle a laugh or something from behind the camera?
Yeah, for sure.
Any memorable ones you can share?
The one that comes to mind, I can't even tell you on the podcast. So
Oh, no. Please
Those are
tell
the
us
best
off.
ones. Yeah.
All right, so something went very awry. Was it a live shot? Just kind of give us a little teaser.
it was just my buddy and I were doing a convention, and we were interviewing doctors, and we just didn't know what the subject matter was. And when the subject matter came up, we both looked at each other and had to just dial it back.
Rein it in. Rein it in.
Yeah. And that's all I'm gonna say about it.
All right,
That's
fair
good.
enough. Thanks for the teaser.
Mike, it's been
Cool.
great talking to you.
Yes. Thank
Yeah,
you, Mike.
same.
We appreciate the time. It's great to see your face, and good luck with your company. Oh, and you're breaking ground on a new on a new location, right? Did I see that?
Yep. It's just gotten to the point where I can't operate this out of my house anymore because we rent a lot of gear, so people are coming and going, and it's just weird having them come into my house or my garage. And also we just don't have the space. Like every piece of our house is full of equipment now. So it's just too much.
Yeah, a good problem to have. Well, good luck
Yeah,
with that. That's
congratulations.
exciting, and good luck with all of your upcoming coverage.
Thank you. Nice seeing you both.
Nice
You
seeing
too. See you, Mike.
Thanks for tuning in to Old News with Dan and Carrie.
That's old news for now.
Join us next time.